A lot of it has to do with the indigenous tribes in South America that have had contact with extraterrestrials for thousands of years, and the ability of the information that they already know to come to the surface. So a lot of research needs to be done, a lot of discovery needs to be done, and a lot of listening needs to be done to the stories that a lot of indigenous tribes in South America have to tell about their encounters with extraterrestrials and other dimensional beings, to add their stories to the mix of information and knowledge that humanity needs to access so it can increase its awareness of the existence of extraterrestrials that's been going on your planet for a long, long time.
All right. Hey, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
I was curious, are there sentient cats?
All cats are sentient.
Oh, I meant like more like a higher level like we are, or self-awareness, I guess you might say it that way.
They have self-awareness. They just don't need to be anything other than cats with their self-awareness. Animals, in a sense, if you want to look at it this way, are specialists. They use all of their awareness and all of their sentiency and all of their intelligence to be exactly what they are. Humans and some other animals can exhibit some of this, are generalists. And that's why you think the way you do. And that's why you need to be the way you are. Cats don't need to be anything other than cats. Humans need to be many different things. That's what being a human is.
Interesting. And the dolphins that have the ability to travel back and forth between parallel universes, are they from our world? Did they evolve in our world or somewhere else and then come here?
Well, nothing actually came from Earth. Everything, in a sense, came from elsewhere, either through literal, deliberate implantation or through the device you call panspermia. Do you understand that term?
Yes.
So like everything on Earth came from somewhere else originally. Now it developed on Earth over time through the evolutionary process. But originally the DNA that you find exists in all life on your planet came from other places in space.
Got it. Okay. On your world, do you have like an area that's jungle?
We do have lush forests, and there are certain areas that are more what you would refer to as jungle-like. Yes. Mostly around the equator.
Oh, around the equator. Okay. Is it otherwise a mostly arid world?
Ours, no. It is very temperate, very lush, very green, lots of forests, lots of plants, lots of trees. We don't have seasons like you do. It is mostly within a range of about 5 degrees difference throughout the entire year because our axis is not tilted like yours is. Not to the same degree.
Interesting. Okay. Do you have flying creatures that have a kind of long nose and they're very friendly and almost like mammalian? Okay. I'm just curious. And it feels like like when they touch you, it feels like little kisses, like wet kisses.
Well, yes, that's one way I suppose you could describe it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Are you with your world? Are you planning to, like how we had intervention in our world and we're a hybrid species? Are you planning to create hybrid species from the animals that live on your world?
No, there is no need to. We are already a hybridized society.
Interesting. And so for you, time doesn't, like you're actually saying that your society from our Earth timeline doesn't exist yet. Is that right?
In the way that you would understand that is to some degree correct. Although, again, remember, we're in a completely parallel reality from you. So we do coexist at the same time on a higher level. But from your timeline, we would seem to be thousands of years in your future.
That's interesting. What's the farthest from like our very local timeline? What species is the farthest in the future that you've met?
There are species we have interacted with that are millions of years ahead of you.
Whoa, that's cool. What about the farthest in the past from this very local timeline?
We do not really interact with many species who are too far in what you would consider to be the past, because most of them are not ready yet for that kind of contact. However, there are a few that have been a few hundred years and maybe even a couple of thousand years behind you that developed societies that were open to the idea of open contact long before yours is.
Interesting.
Now, you have had open contact thousands of years in the past in other civilizations, such as Atlantis and so on and so forth. So it's just that, as an example, they developed in similar ways and didn't lose the ability to have that contact and start over again, like Earth did.
That makes sense, yeah. Did the ancient Egyptians have open contact, or by them was it no longer open contact?
Well, yes, it depends upon exactly what era in ancient Egypt you're referring to, but there was early on open contact because many of the beings that are referred to as gods by the ancient Egyptians were actually extraterrestrials.
That makes sense. How do you find the civilizations that you make contact with?
Energetically, vibrationally. We read the vibrations they give off, and if they give off a kind of vibrational invitation that they're getting ready to allow themselves to understand that they're not alone in the universe, then we can begin to explore in what ways we may be able to initiate contact subtly so that we do not disrupt their society. But we will explore it if we feel that the vibration is being given off by that civilization. Sometimes we have to back off when sometimes they may stick their, as you say, toe in the water of exploring that, but sometimes a civilization will pull back from that, and then, therefore, so will we.
That's really interesting. So how many civilizations, again, did you personally make contact with?
I have made contact personally with 137.
Wow, that's a lot. And are you actually like representing the whole Federation in some way, or is it just your civilization when you're making contact?
It depends upon who we are making contact with. Mostly it is simply representative of our civilization, but there are times when it is important for us to act in a sort of diplomatic or ambassadorial way for the entire interstellar alliance, depending upon the culture that we are contacting.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Bashar. I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. Aveo. Good day.
Aveo.
Good day, Bashar. Thank you. My name is Zach. I was wondering if I'm a part of the hybrid program. And if I am, I was wondering how could I become more aware of my end of the bargain and what my life path is supposed to entail. And thank you.
You are learning your life lessons that your soul put on your path. All you have to do is continue to follow the formula as precisely as possible. You will have more understanding about your role in the hybridization program after open contact when you are able to interact with the hybrid extraterrestrials that have been living and working among your society for quite some time. So just give it a couple of more years, and in the meantime, really act on your passion, really follow the formula as precisely as possible, and you will be better prepared in a couple of years to be able to interact with the extraterrestrial hybrids that have been living and working among your society once they are openly introduced to you. And it is then and only then that it will be really appropriate for you to know exactly what else you can do to fulfill the role that your soul has chosen to participate in the evolution of humanity in this day and age.
Hi.
And to you, good day.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
Thank you. So my first question is, I have done a lot of healing work, therapy, spiritual practices, self-reflection, but deep anger still resurfaces from time to time. So
then you don't necessarily believe that you are unaffected by what other people do.
Say that one more time.
You have not developed an understanding or a belief that you are unaffected by what other people choose to do. You still believe that they can affect you without your permission.
Okay.
And that's what makes you angry. You are, in a sense, angry at yourself for not choosing to align with what you prefer, despite what other people may choose in your reality. Remember, this is why we say, if you understand how things work, then it doesn't really matter what happens around you. It only matters what you do with what happens that makes the difference in your experience of your reality. So if you find yourself getting angry because of things going on around you, then you are giving your power over to them to say that what they're doing more accurately determines what you get to experience than you do. You need to reverse that and understand that you cannot be affected by anyone else. You can only match a vibration being offered to you that pulls you out of the state you prefer to be in, but you're pulling yourself out of that state with the belief that you have to match that other vibration just because you experience it or observe it in your reality. Just because you can observe something doesn't mean that you share the same reality. It's like looking through a glass window. You can see what other people may be choosing that you don't prefer, but they can't reach you because they cannot penetrate the glass. If you feel yourself being affected by them, then you have decided to step onto their side of the glass.
Gotcha.
Stay on your side, and you will understand that they can't reach you. And the only way you would experience the things that are representative of what they're doing is for you to agree to match and mirror the vibration that they're giving off that you don't prefer. So why would you choose to do that? Is the question. What are you getting out of doing that? Is the question. Because remember, you don't do anything that you don't believe serves you. So somehow you must still be holding on to a belief that choosing to mirror a vibration you don't prefer somehow is teaching you a lesson that you need. What is that lesson?
How do I effectively transmute it instead of just managing it, or
you're not paying attention,
managing my triggers?
You're not paying attention to what we're telling you. Listen more closely. It's not about managing it. The idea is that you're choosing to do it because you think it serves you somehow and benefits you somehow to go into that state. So you need to answer the question, how am I getting a benefit by going into the negative state?
Okay.
And the way perhaps to figure that out is by asking this question. If I didn't go into the negative state, if I stayed in the positive state that I prefer to stay in, what am I afraid might happen in my life? Can you answer that question? If you remained positive because that's what you prefer, what are you afraid might happen? Are you afraid that you would no longer be relatable? Are you afraid you would lose your friends because you're now too different and don't react like a typical human being? Are you afraid you would leave them behind because you have risen above the need to choose those negative vibrations? Are you afraid that would mean you would wind up being alone? What are you afraid of by remaining positive? That question needs to be answered by you. And once it is answered, you will understand why you might choose to go into the negative vibration to make yourself seem like a part of humanity instead of really actually being a living example of what humanity can become by being your true self, your soul self, and letting them see in you what they could also choose for themselves as well. So if you can answer these questions for yourself, you will understand that it makes no sense for you to continue to choose something you don't prefer, and it doesn't serve anyone to do so.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Are you willing to be of service to others by being your best self, your true self, and choosing only those things which allow you to act as a living example to others of what they could also choose, instead of simply going into anger, which only reinforces the negative choices that they're making. So why would you do that to them? Why would you reinforce the negative choices they're already making by mirroring that vibration instead of something more positive that gives them the option to choose something different?
A good question.
Thank you. I often ask good questions. The only thing is you have to find a good answer for all those questions when you ask them of yourself. So spend some time asking those questions of yourself, and you will find that the answer will come, and you will find the relief that you're looking for.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Can I ask another question?
That was a question, so you just did. Are you wanting to ask yet another one?
Yes, sir.
All right. You don't have to ask if you can ask. Otherwise, you've already asked.
True. So when you can see how artificial and conditioned and performative like society is, how do you avoid becoming detached or exhausted by it while still trying to live fully and joyfully?
Again, watch your definitions. The only time you become overwhelmed or exhausted is a first clue that you are not doing things in the way that works for you, that you're making choices that don't work for you. Otherwise, if you are making the choices that are actually aligned with your true vibration, you never become overwhelmed. You never become exhausted.
It's like I can see that we're in a matrix and I can see the programming.
But it's your matrix.
True,
it's your simulation. All it is a matter of making choices that you prefer as opposed to making choices that you don't. And if you make choices that you don't prefer, like we already just told you, figure out what benefit you think you're getting out of making choices you don't prefer by asking the question, if I stopped making choices I don't prefer and started making choices I do prefer, what am I afraid might happen? If you are honest in your self-examination by asking that question, you'll figure it out and you will let go of the reason that you have created to make choices you don't prefer, because you will see that it no longer makes sense to do so when you realize why you've been making those choices, by understanding what it is you were afraid would happen if you stopped making those negative choices. So it's just a matter of going through that process and answering that question. What am I afraid will happen if I choose something I prefer instead of something that I don't? When you are honest with your answer, everything will fall away and you will awaken and be enlightened to why you've been doing what you've been doing and how you can then realize that it makes no sense to continue to do so. It's all about the why. Why are you choosing to do what you're choosing to do? So you have to figure that out. Ask that question. Investigate it. Yeah. Take the time to do so. What am I afraid will happen if I start choosing things that I prefer instead of choosing things I don't? And understand that you're choosing them. These things just don't happen to you. They happen through your choices. You cannot experience anything if you don't choose to.
Yeah. I just feel like some days I'm living in a video game.
Do you understand what you're doing right now? You are constantly reinforcing the need to choose things you don't prefer by constantly defining it in a way that makes it seem as if you are powerless to make a choice. I feel like I'm in a video game. Where does the feeling come from? The feeling comes from something you already believe to be true, because feelings don't happen in a vacuum. You have to believe something to be true about yourself first before you can have any feeling about anything at all. So if you have a feeling that you're in a video game and you have no choice and it's just running on its own, ask yourself why you're holding on to a belief that allows you to have that feeling. Because the belief generates the feeling. Trace the feeling back to what you would have to believe is true about yourself and your life to make it seem as if you don't have any control over that feeling. You're generating it by holding on to a belief that generates that feeling. No feeling comes from anything that is not a belief you don't think is true.
That's deep. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
Aveo.
Hello, Bashar. Since I was a child, I've always been very attracted to the idea of elves and goblins and fairies, stories like Lord of the Rings, and Ireland as well. And I know Ireland is very connected to the elementals and nature spirits. And I'm also curious about the seers in ancient Ireland, the Celts, the Druids. And I was wondering if you could talk about Ireland a little bit and why they're so connected to the elementals and maybe where they got their knowledge about magic and Wicca, and where does that come from, Atlantis or ancient Egypt? Any elaboration would be appreciated. Thank you, Bashar.
Yes, it comes from ancient Atlantean practices. The survivors from Atlantis that went into Europe, a lot of them went in to the idea of the northern areas of England and Ireland and continued their practices and understandings of their connections to nature. These were not exactly what you would refer to today as cults, but certain priesthoods that understood astral projection, understood their connection to nature, and they continued these practices in those northern climes after Atlantis was destroyed. It has become sort of forgotten after all this time and is being remembered again at this time. They also went into ancient Egypt, and that is why there may be some similarities between some of the practices in ancient Egypt, as there may be in the northern climes of England and Ireland as well, because again, the survivors from Atlantis spread out throughout the idea of Europe and the Mediterranean and North Africa, and also the Americas as well.
Good day. I'm super excited of our interaction.
As are we. What would you like to discuss?
Amazing. About the formula, I have difficulty with the point of always keeping a positive state no matter what. Because when I feel pain, when someone hurt me, and especially when I am angry, I go out of my center and I become negative.
All right, but then take the time to stop and ask yourself why you would choose to go into that vibration, because you only go into that vibration if you feel that it's actually serving you in some way, shape, or form. So find out why you would think that it actually serves you better to go into a negative vibration than remaining in a positive one, because you would not go into a negative vibration if you didn't have a belief that it was serving you somehow to do so. So you have to investigate yourself and find out what you believe to be true that would make it seem logical for you to choose a negative vibration as opposed to a positive one. Once you find that out, it will no longer make any sense to you to choose the negative vibration, and you will understand that it doesn't really matter what happens situationally. It only matters what you do with what happens that makes the difference in your life. You are still assuming that what happens can affect you negatively, and that's what makes you angry, because you still believe that what happens outside can affect you. It can't. You choose to be affected. That's because you believe that things can affect you. When you understand that you are the one that determines what happens to you and no one else does, then you will stop agreeing with the negative vibrations that others may give to you, and you will stay in a positive vibration because it makes no sense for you to choose anything else.
Amazing. Thank you.
You are welcome.
About what I listen, you usually say, I feel a philosophical paradox about the topic of infinity. If we anyway will experience everything also after this singular life. So which is the meaning of our of what we choose for our action if anyway in the meantime it have an immediate effect, but in the long time we will experience everything of the universe. So where is the free will in this?
Yes. For each lifetime, your soul, with its free will, chooses certain challenges and certain experiences as lessons that it needs to learn for its own soul's growth. But once you go back to spirit, then you are free to choose anything with your free will once again. But once you choose something, you lay out a certain path and you will follow that path until you are done with it. It's just like going to school. If you have chosen a certain class, then you must finish that class to learn what it is that that class has to teach you. But when you are done with that class, then you can choose anything else that you feel will help you grow in the way that you prefer to. So as a soul, you are unlimited in what it is you can choose to experience. But once you choose an experience, you have to live it through to learn the lesson that the soul decided to learn.
And about this, are we stuck in an eternal prison where we must perceive some experience? We always have to do something without rest?
No.
How is it infinite?
No, you are never stuck. It's all a matter of what you choose as a soul. But once you choose it, then you must live through it because it's your choice. Once you're done, then you are free to choose anything. You are never stuck, ever.
And which is the morality from this point of view? How we can build a system of ethical behavior if anyway, whatever we do can be interpreted also if it's negative as a positive effect. Anyway, we will also after this life, we will continue in spirit. So for example, killing for humans, for the majority of us looks instinctively something bad, but anyway, what is the morality of the actions? If we continue as infinite souls.
Again, the idea is to understand what we mean by positive and negative energy. Negative is that which causes an experience of separation, segregation, diminishment. Positive is that which creates an experience of connection, expansion. So it's up to you to decide what you wish to experience. Anything can be used for learning a lesson. But the idea is to also learn that you don't have to suffer in order to learn lessons. That's one of the things that humanity is learning at this time on the planet Earth, is that you can learn your lessons without necessarily suffering. You have to be a living example to others to allow them to see in you what they can also choose for themselves, to go beyond the idea of the limitations of negative choices that allow them to not express who they truly are. This is all about, at this time on your planet, allowing you to express more of your true self, your true soul, through your physical expression, so that you can rise above the idea of negative choices that don't allow you to express who you fully are. So make the choices that are more in alignment with connection and expansion, and you will be more aligned with the majority of existence itself. Because existence is 51% positive and 49% negative, because the middle ground balance is also positive because it allows you the freedom to choose what you prefer. So if you just align yourself with the idea of the freedom of choice to choose what you prefer and act on that and live that way, you will be mostly aligned with the positive flow and direction of the universe that will bring everything you need in life to fulfill the lessons that your soul chose to learn in the most positive, creative, and loving way.
Thank you.
We thank you very much. Good day.
Aveo.
Aveo.
Hello, Bashar and Bashar's team. My question is, a few years back, I was in deep meditation and my eyes were shut, but even though my eyes were shut, I saw bright colors, violet, white. There's a variety of bright colors in my vision, assuming coming from my pineal gland. Along with that, I had an experience of complete unity, complete oneness with all of creation. There was no separation. There was an electrical force, almost like a lightning and energy going through my body. And my question is, one, what was this experience? And two, I've gone back into deep meditation before, and it always feels like I get very close to experiencing it again, but I can never quite get there. My second question is why? Why is it difficult to get back to that experience again? Thank you.
Because you're not the same person now that you were then. So you have to let go of needing to experience it exactly in the same way you did when you were a different person. You need to open up to the new way in which you need to experience these things, which sometimes involves becoming more aware and more conscious of yourself, doing it more consciously and not necessarily experiencing it in the same way that you used to when you weren't as consciously aware of what was going on. So the idea is that it's not just the pineal gland that's involved, but all the chakras being aligned, vibrating in harmony, in synchronous rotation, so to speak, feeling the kundalini energy of the lightning coursing through your body as you describe it. But the idea is that not to insist on feeling it exactly the same way, but knowing that when you go into your deep meditation, you are actually in the same state. Just allow the state to feel different, knowing you are in the same state, because you are a different person who now needs to feel things in a different way. Just know that you're in the same state, relevant to the person and relative to the person you now are, as opposed to who you used to be.
Hello, Bashar. How are you today?
Good day to you. This day I am perfect. And you?
So I have some questions. The first one is in relation to the spirit guide exercise that you gave back in November. I believe I communicated with my third spirit guide, and the appearance that I associate with them is of a golden carp.
Are you referring to the fish?
Yes.
All right. Well, then this may be indicative of a serious connection.
Oh, okay. Haha. I was like, serious why? But you mean this constellation?
I mean the star, yes.
Yeah. And the star, yes. And then it also has like a dragon aspect.
But dragons represent, in general, in your society, a symbol for the idea of extraterrestrials.
Okay. So an extraterrestrial from Sirius.
Yes.
I've been calling them golden carp. I would love like a better name for them.
Goldfish?
Goldfish? Okay. They're fine with that? All right.
They're fine with anything you wish to call them.
Okay. Well, I have the Ichushting Yanka guide and I have the captain guide. So what would be maybe the topic or the theme of goldfish as a guide?
The idea of eternity, longevity, that which lasts, that which is immutable, unchanging, forever, eternal. Like the element gold itself, which never tarnishes and never changes. It is the idea of the indestructible core of your soul. It is eternal and unchanging.
And I'm talking this out loud, so confirm yay or nay if you can. So my choice or my association with this guide perhaps is connected to my desire to communicate the most, let's say, sustainable, authentic messaging that I can that stands the test of time.
Yes, because you have to come from your indestructible core in order to do so. From your golden self.
Your golden self. That makes me want to ask the question, for changing core beliefs, is that like a once in a life type of exercise, or do people would you do that multiple?
Well, there may be many core beliefs. But when we say core self, we're not talking about core beliefs. We're talking about your core existence as a soul, your indestructible aspect of source. We're not talking about the beliefs that are relevant for a particular lifetime that may be referred to as core beliefs, which are the ones that are laid out by the soul for the most important lessons that the soul wishes to learn in that specific lifetime.
Okay. Changing topics now. We talked in Midnight Under the Hunter's Moon about language. And we talked about the Atlantean language and how no complete version of it has been found. And I am curious if the Phaistos disc, the Minoan Phaistos disc that hasn't been translated, is part of the Atlantean language.
It is an evolution of it to some degree, yes. But in a sense, closer are the Aztec languages.
Okay.
Still not complete, but the Aztec languages are very close.
Okay. So then the language is like more logographic or symbolic than it is phonetic or alphabetic, or
they actually had both kinds.
Okay.
Because it was, again, an evolution. Remember that Atlantis existed for thousands of years.
Right.
It wasn't static. It evolved in many different ways, including its language. But the closest representation that still exists are some of the roots of the Aztecan languages, whereas some of their colonies in the Mediterranean, in the Minoan civilization, as you call it, those are evolutionary offshoots much later in time that were colonies of Atlantis, such as on Crete with the Temple of Knossos.
Which where the disc was found.
Yes.
And what percentage of the language would you say that disc represents?
About 15%.
Okay.
The rest is an evolution that then gained changes from the Mediterranean cultures that they interacted with as well. So again, you're looking at another evolution over quite a long time that took the original core Atlantean language and evolved it into something that was more, shall we say, usable for the trade going on with all the different cultures in the Mediterranean. It became literally a trade language.
A trade language.
Yes. A language useful for trading with other cultures.
And did that evolve into what's the language, Phoenician, the one that we've developed our alphabet from?
Some aspects of it, yes, but it also comes from other places as well, like Sumerian and so on and so forth. Again, you're looking at a lot of hybridization over a long period of time with bits from this civilization and bits from that culture and so on and so forth.
Okay. In terms of like Mu and Atlantis, how does Shangri-La fit into that?
That is something of a different nature. It is something in the Tibetan area that had to do with another dimension entirely.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bashar.
You are welcome. Good day, Aveo.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Bashar. This is my question. So I think I am passionate about being on stage and being a performer, a rock star. But I was wondering if maybe it was as well a trauma response in need of external validation. And I was wondering, how do one clarify this subtlety? Thank you very much.
Well, it depends on, again, as you indicate, why you're doing it. It doesn't mean you can't go into music. Let's say, don't insist on the way in which it expresses itself. If you are passionate about music, then just do what you can to act on your music. Don't assume that you have to become a rock star. That might be true, but it also might be the idea of needing a external reflection for validation. You have to be honest about why you would need that experience. If you don't really need it and are really purely interested in acting on your passion for its own sake, then naturally, if you need to become a rock star, you will simply naturally become one. But if you find that you are insisting that that has to be the outcome, then there is something about that might be representative of the need for external validation. Just perform your passion for its own sake purely and see where it leads. Remember that if you're acting on your passion, you don't really care where you wind up or how it expresses itself, because you are having fun acting on your passion, no matter what the expression of the outcome might be.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
So I know everyone's looking forward to hearing all these great questions that have been submitted.
All right.
The first question, when an old system is collapsing, is it better to build the new system to replace it while the old one is still on its way out, or wait until the old one collapses fully and the dust settles?
Of course, it's always more efficient to start creating a new system so that the time it takes to replace the old system when it collapses isn't as long. So you're not lost in limbo, wondering what's going to happen. So by all means, don't hesitate to use your creativity to create new systems that will replace the old ones once they fall apart.
And this person
adapt. You can always adapt. You can always course correct. You can always finesse the new system once the old system goes away, but have the basic system ready to go.
Okay, and this person is saying they find themselves excited about first contact and wanting to help, but also afraid. Can you help them understand those emotions?
Well, again, there may be many reasons why people react in fear to the idea of open contact. As we have already explained, the exposure to a higher frequency being can make one feel like one is disoriented, disconnected from their reality because they're being introduced to a different reality. It can translate sometimes as if the person is going to die just because the higher vibration of some extraterrestrials may be akin to the vibration of spirit, and exposure to that frequency may make your personality think that it's about to go into spirit or die. And so you react with survival mode, fight or flight. But also because exposure to the higher frequency may bring to the surface things that you're not ready to face within yourself. So you're uncertain about how you will integrate, what you will experience, the changes that will happen to you personally and your society, and how things may be very different and you may not feel ready to handle those things. But generally speaking, remember, extraterrestrials will conduct open contact in a way that will give people a chance to adapt, a chance to allow themselves to get used to the idea. Now, that doesn't mean that some people won't still react with fear, but the idea is that it's going to take a process. It's going to take some time. Some people may adapt quickly. Some people may adapt more slowly, but you will have at least a couple of decades to get used to the idea that interacting with extraterrestrials and all that implies is a choice. So you're being given the opportunity to recognize that you are now having a new choice. It's not something that will be forced on anyone, so you can relax about that, but you will have the choice to interact with extraterrestrials at your own pace. So it won't be something in any way, shape, or form that you will have to do right away if you don't prefer to.
And what will happen to the entertainment industry on our planet after first contact? Will we still make movies, TV shows, music, theater? They're wondering how that will change. They will change our entertainment.
Well, a lot of it will be technological. In other words, you will have access to holographic technology so that perhaps it will be a more immersive experience. You will be, so to speak, in the movie, interacting with the characters. You can see the advantage in some way, shape, or form. This has been represented in some of your science fiction scenarios, like the Star Trek holodeck, where you are a character in a movie with the other characters, playing out scenarios, learning lessons, so on and so forth, having experiences, having adventures, as if they are actually taking place in the physical reality, even though they're not. So it's kind of like a more creative and safer way to explore many things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do in physical reality, at least not right away. The idea of general content is up to your continued ability to create stories. There can be new stories involving new ideas that may not have existed prior to open contact, but nevertheless, it will still be the same basic things of learning lessons, the same basic things of relating to one another, learning new skills, having new adventures, having new experiences. So you will just adapt your storytelling prowess and creativity to the new technologies you will be offered after open contact.
And what is the difference between conspiracies and disclosure messages?
Well, most conspiracies may spin stories beyond what is actually factual. In other words, you let your negative side of the imagination run wild and start believing in things that haven't in any way, shape, or form actually got any kind of physical, factual backup evidence or proof to them. The idea of disclosure is there's enough evidence to support the idea that information has been being withheld from your society. So that's actually something you can demonstrate over time as an actual fact. There's enough evidence, even in a court of your law, to demonstrate that. Conspiracies usually are not necessarily in any way, shape, or form evidence-based. They are just fully the resource of exaggeration from the negative side of the imagination with absolutely no backup.
Okay, and you've mentioned that extraterrestrials are already working with our scientists and politicians behind the scenes. Is this something tangible, meaning are actual meetings where both parties, humans and non-humans, are sitting at a table and talking?
Yes, and doing more than that, working together on technological ideas, so on and so forth. So yes, there are actual conversations and interactions taking place between them for certain projects, yes.
And which species, which group of extraterrestrials would that be?
Some Pleiadian, some hybrid, some gray, a few other things.
Okay, and this person wants to know, when is the earliest one of us could take a ride on an ET spacecraft?
Somewhere between open contact and 2050. I cannot say for each and every individual when that time may come, but this will become more and more available to humans as the decades unfold, as your society and extraterrestrial societies become more integrated. It will become more available over time. For each individual, that will be a personal timing.
Okay, and could you give us some tips on how to manage our impatience and curiosity regarding this new cycle that seems to be unfolding? This person's feeling a mix of anxiety and excitement, and they want to know how to prepare themselves and how to be of service.
Just follow the formula. Live your life in the best way you possibly can. Be of service to others by sharing your gifts. Impatience, remember, is thinking that something better is going to be happening than what's happening in the present. Nothing is more important than what's happening in the present, whatever that is, because that's where your lessons are found. That's where your challenges lead you to grow. So stay focused in what's going on. Act on your passion in service to others to the best you possibly can. Then everything will fall into place. That's all you have to do.
Okay, and regarding the holographic recording of Earth's history, will that tell just the ancient history, or will it include our modern history as well?
Everything up to the present. And even the possibility of some probabilities of the future. Because these recordings are, in a sense, able to tap into what you call the Akashic records, which actually contains past, present, and future probabilities. So the idea is that it will be perhaps more relevant to your mindset to think of it as recordings of the past of things that have already happened, but it can also be utilized as a technology to determine what might be the best courses to take in examining and exploring the idea of future probabilities as well.
And what about things like crimes that have happened, corruption, war crimes, will any of these things be like consequential secrets that are revealed through that process?
On certain occasions, some of that may be included, but it's more about the idea of recording of outward events, whatever actually appeared to happen physically in your reality, more than the idea of what may have been internally withheld by individuals. Now, there may be some instances when people may have, in a sense, outwardly discussed certain things that were secret that may have the ability to be recorded. But again, it's not so much about the idea of consequential secrets as it is more about the idea of what it is that you would consider to be outward appearing history.
So, for example, the Kennedy assassination, is that something that would be revealed accurately what had actually happened, or?
Yes. Every aspect of that was recorded.
Okay. And what do the ETs think of humans that are extremely religious? Is it off-putting to them?
It's not that it's off-putting. It's just that we understand that different people may require different kinds of permission slips to allow them to move forward in life in certain ways, although we simultaneously understand that many religious doctrines can be quite limiting to a person's ability to make their own personal connection to spirit. So it's just something we observe that we would generally consider to be not necessarily the most efficient way to connect to the idea of your personal space or relationship with source. But at the same time, we also recognize the importance of permission slips for certain people who simply do not necessarily know any other way to get in touch with those things that may matter to them on that level.
And how can we recognize during open contact whether an extraterrestrial being is benevolent, like the Pleiadians, or maybe not well-intentioned, who would have domination in their plan? We want to be able to discern so we're not misled during that phase.
Any misleading would come from your own people, not from the extraterrestrials. The beneficial extraterrestrials are keeping anyone that is not beneficial to Earth at bay. So you don't have to worry about that. So any deception would be coming from your side, not from the extraterrestrial side.
And some people are saying that a scare event will happen to wake up humanity and usher in a new era. Will this scare event actually occur? And if so, why would a scare event help to wake up humanity instead of taking over our media and explaining everything to us calmly?
It's not about the idea that there is a scare event. It's about the idea, it's a way of interpreting the understanding that some people will react negatively to the idea of open contact. They may scare themselves. So it's not that it is a planned scare event so much as it is that there might be a lot of scare reaction from certain people who are not in alignment with their true selves.
Okay, and can someone be in direct connection with the mantis beings and communicate with them? Or are they like spirit guides, or do they just chime in?
They're not spirit guides. Yes, you can connect with them.
Why would someone feel a deep connection to the mantis beings?
For a variety of reasons. Why do you feel a deep connection to anything? It may be because you are on a life path where it's important for you to make that connection. It may be because you have encountered the spirits of those beings when you yourself were a soul and understood that this is all laid out on your life path to interact with one another and therefore feel some sense of familiarity with them. Because again, remember, as a soul, all beings in a sense are sort of the same. Therefore, there really isn't much difference between you, the soul that you are, and the soul that a mantis being is. It's just that it's a different presentation in physical reality. But you may still recognize the similarity and the connection you have from soul to soul, no matter what form the being may take physically.
Okay, and why do we feel an increasing sense of urgency in our evolution when time doesn't actually exist?
This is a misunderstanding that many humans have when they take it to extremes in terms of the concept of time. Time does exist in linear reality, in physical reality. Of course you experience the idea of time. To say it doesn't exist is to not even pay attention to what's happening in your physical reality. Yes, on higher levels, it's not experienced the same way. It appears not to exist the same way that it is experienced in physical terms. But that doesn't mean, quote unquote, time doesn't exist. Of course you experience time in physical reality because that's the very definition of physical reality. It is a linear space-time experience. So you have to be more aware of how you're using and understanding that terminology. The overall idea from the highest level is that time is not experienced in the same way that you do. Everything seems simultaneous. It appears as if there is no linear time. But the idea is that as you create the physical experience, you have to create the experience of time in order to have that. So it's not that it doesn't exist. It's just that it exists in different ways based on the level that you're coming from.
Okay, and you've spoken about the idea of the splitting prism. Can you tell us when the splitting prism transition is completed? Like, when will it be in a reality where you're not seeing wars and people fighting, etc.?
Somewhere between your year of 2050 and 2100. The decade between 2050 and 2060 will be known historically in the future as the decade of dreams, when humanity finally realizes its evolutionary path, realizes the opportunities laid out before it by interaction with extraterrestrials, becoming members of the galactic family. And therefore, that decade from 2050 to 2060 will propel humanity forward in a way where the idea of experiencing the version of Earth that you're talking about will continue from that point forward to grow and increase and expand. And then by the year 2100, you will find that it will be fully realized in that way. Now, again, it can happen a little sooner than that, but we're giving you an open window in which it will occur at the absolute latest. It can happen sooner, but 2100 would be the absolute latest. Depends on the choices that you make as to exactly when in that half century it will crystallize in the way that you're talking about.
And along with that, the idea of male dominance over the planet as it currently stands, will that change commensurate with what you're describing as a necessary feature of peace?
Of course. There will be more balance in humanity, more equality in humanity. And therefore, there will not be dominance of one thing over another. It will all work out collaboratively, cooperatively, balanced.
And is it very probable that new technologies such as free energy and true intelligent devices will be developed prior to when contact is disclosed, or?
No, after. Because again, remember that open contact is imminent in the next couple of years at the most. Therefore, you will find that there will be an acceleration of these things after open contact when extraterrestrials can more openly assist humans with the discoveries that you're talking about.
I'll take a day to you this day of your time. How are you all? Oh, hey, thank you. Now, once again, we would like to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank each and every one of you, and all of you together collectively, who are participating in the co-creation of this transmission. Once again, each and every time you are willing to participate in this kind of communication, it forms not only a link and a bridge between your world, your frequency, your dimension, your reality, and ours, but also by creating such a link, it creates a new dimension, a new reality, a new vibration that will grow and change and become a space, become a reality in which we can one day both interact more and more directly. So we thank you for the co-creation of this new space, of this new reality in which we all shall together participate. Let us begin this day of your time, this transmission, by calling this communication permission slips. Let us talk about permission slips. What are permission slips? Well, the idea we would like to share with you this day of your time is that many times we hear in conversations with many of you questions and discussions of different kinds of tools, rituals, books, information. And we are often asked, does this tool work? What about this ritual? What is the best way to do this? What is the best way to do that? Now, we have often discussed, of course, the notion that for each and every one of you individually, because each and every one of you is a distinct signature vibration, that obviously whatever tool, ritual, idea, information you attract to yourself is, by definition, at that moment, the one that will work best for you. Because it is keyed, it is matched to your frequency. That's why you attracted it. So even if the very next day you attract something different, if it is that attraction, the product of the change in your frequency, and you trust the synchronicity of your life having brought that to you, then even if it is different than what you were doing the day before, it is at that moment the perfect tool for you. Because you attracted it with your frequency, like vibration to like vibration. But in talking about all of these different techniques, tools, rituals, meditations, books, information, what have you, there is something very important to understand about all these things. Be they ideas or artifacts, doesn't matter. What they really simply are permission slips that you give to yourself to be who you are. The power does not exist in those objects, in those rituals. No real effect per se comes from them. Now, we understand, of course, that in physical reality, when something is crystallized in a physical way, of course it has its own attributes. Such things as crystals are obviously representative of certain kinds of energy patterns, yes. But nevertheless, the point is that regardless of what attribute the object or idea or technique or tool itself may have inherently, the idea is that it still doesn't really create any effect within you or do anything for you unless you choose to match the frequency of the idea it symbolizes for you. So you are generating the effect yourself out of your own energy, but what you are doing is you are relying on your belief system, which sometimes can be unconscious, to attract to you the symbol that best reflects the vibration within you, that will allow you permission to be yourself. We understand that many times some of the belief systems and ideas and definitions that you are brought up believing in on your planet will create certain notions and patterns within you that makes it seem as if you do not have the ability to be who you say you wish to be. That there are obstacles or challenges in your way that seem to prevent you sometimes, as we hear it from you, from really becoming the full person you wish to be, from really having the full passionate life you wish to have. This is not empirically true, but we understand that if you have a belief system that says it is that way, then for you it is true. Because even though there is no real empirical physical reality, your experience of physical reality is real. That is the only thing that is real. Experience is the reality, not the reality you think you're experiencing, just the experience itself. And when you gravitate toward, attract yourself to, or attract to you some particular idea of information, some particular technique of delivery, even including this idea of channeling, or some object such as a crystal or some book or some ritual or some meditation, all of those things are just a portion of yourself writing you a permission slip to let you finally be in a space that's safe for you to really express your abilities, to be more of who you are. The things themselves do nothing for you. You are doing it all. But if you feel you need an excuse to do it, a permission slip from the universe to do it, then that's what all of these tools and techniques are for. You attract what reflects the belief system within you that makes it seem as if the technique is giving you the ability to do what you want to do, but you're simply giving it to yourself. You are giving yourself permission through the symbol to be more of who you are. So please remember that when and if, at any time, you have a question in your head, what technique is the best for this? What tool should I use? All the things you're ever going to find, all the things you're ever going to have recommended to you, all the things you're ever going to be attracted to are really nothing more than a variation of a permission slip that you are giving to yourself to reveal to yourself, through the particular symbology of that slip, what kind of pattern exists, or what kind of belief system exists, or what kind of definition exists within your consciousness. And in knowing that, in going into the ritual, in using the tool or the technique with that in mind, you can empower yourself that much more rapidly, that much more powerfully, that much more thoroughly by recognizing that even though you may feel at this moment that you need that tool, need that technique in order to have what you want, in order to be who you wish to be, you can then now at this point understand it is you simply doing this by having given yourself permission to let it be all right in some kind of context that your belief system can relate to, so that you will remove any reason not to be yourself. Now, ultimately, you will understand that if this is what these things are, if they are nothing but permission slips, then certainly, as you grow, as you learn, as you expand, you will realize that any technique, any tool will work, will do the same thing, that they're all valid in that context, they're all equal, one is not better than another, and in general, you will also arrive at a point where you will realize that you don't really need them to simply make a change within yourself just because that's what you wish to do. You will simply shortcut the process, not need the technique, not need the tool. You will simply say, well, I'll just choose. I will just choose to be that way. I will just choose to be that state of being. I don't need any other tool, any other technique, other than the recognition that what I choose will be so. What I choose is up to me. And if I wish to attract a technique or tool to myself because I feel it is fun, because I feel it will give me a reason to do what I wish to do, be who I wish to be, well, all well and good, so be it. But knowing that will eventually eliminate the need for the tool itself. Because you are the primary tool, you are the primary technique. Now, we are going to cover more of the ideas I'm about to speak about in what you call tomorrow's transmission as well. But we're going to lay some foundations here and now for that. The next thing we would like to bring up in connection and in conjunction with this idea of permission slips is how to allow this concept to sink in more deeply and how to form a relationship more clearly and more consciously with what many of you have for a long time called your higher self. This mysterious higher self. Where is it? Don't know. Is he up there? Is she over there? Don't know. How high? This high? This high? Don't know. What is the higher self? Thank you. Let's address this. So you have some definitions to work with, which again are nothing but what? Permission slips. That's all we're delivering here. Everything we say, everything we deliver to you is nothing but another form of permission slip. Take which one works for you. The ones that don't work for you, let them be. Now, let's go into a little bit more detail. Higher self. All right. Most of you are familiar with the idea that you have a physical consciousness, a personality as a physical being that you relate to as yourself, so to speak. But then there is this mysterious idea of the higher self. Simply put, most of you understand, or at least intuit, that the so-called higher self, well, is relatively non-physical. Even more simply put, you could say that there is a vibrational frequency just above physical reality, just beyond physical reality, in which resides what you might refer to as a template for physical reality, or upon which you construct your physical experience. It is in that template level, just beyond the physical threshold, that the higher self exists. Now, please do not confuse the idea of higher self with oversoul or spirit or what have you. Higher self is a specific idea that is like a version of the person you are in physical reality, but a version that has a broader perspective, a broader point of view. It's like having a twin standing on a mountaintop while one is also standing in the valley. And they can communicate with each other. And the higher self can say, I see you walking down the road, and I see that there is, well, a little bit of a ditch up ahead, so if you walk this way and walk that way, you'll avoid it. And the one in the valley going, oh, thank you very much. This is, very simply put, the relationship between the two. It is you with a higher perspective, a broader perspective, a bigger picture, without the complications that can arise from the personality construct's belief system. So the higher self is like a guiding principle, a governing principle, so to speak, that is a part of your complex as a person, but is the non-physical component that acts as the conduit to even higher versions of your soul, of your being, of your spirit, but also acts as the intermediary between those higher levels and the physical personality construct, and can distill information from the higher spirit and soul over soul levels in a way that your personality can understand. So the higher self functions like a translator, taking the information from the higher levels and bringing it down to earth in a way that can communicate to the personality effectively. However, because of some of the belief systems that exist within the personality structure on your planet, there has been confusion as to exactly how to form a clear communication line to the higher self. So let's make something very, very clear. This may sound a little bit surprising, but that's all right. Surprises are good. There are 3 levels here in this idea. It might surprise you to know, as personality constructs, as physical minds, you do not conceive of any ideas. What do I mean? The personality does not conceive of concepts. It perceives concepts. It does not conceive them. Here are the 3 levels. The higher self conceives. The physical brain receives. The personality mind perceives. That's all it does. Any idea, any inspiration, any imagination you have ever had doesn't come from the physical mind portion of you. It comes from the higher self portion of you. Through the receiver, the brain, and is translated by the brain into a vibration that the physical mind then perceives as a reflected reality. One more time, because this is crucial to understand. You don't conceive of any ideas as a physical mind. That's not what the physical mind is designed to do. It cannot create ideas. It can only perceive the result of an idea from the higher self. Now, this may sound at first somewhat limiting, but in fact, it's very, very freeing, because you can all stop thinking. You can all stop thinking you're in charge. You can all stop thinking you have to think of everything. You can all stop thinking that you're the one guiding the ship. You're not. You are just looking at the road. You're just experiencing the path that you, the whole you, is creating. But the reason you get into trouble, the reason you feel stuck as a physical mind, is because you've been taught to believe that the physical mind is the one coming up with all this stuff. And it's not. So when you try to manipulate it, it doesn't work, because the physical mind is not designed to actually create those concepts. It is only designed to perceive the effect of the creation of those concepts through the receiver, the physical brain. Now, here's also what happens. And again, this is an important distinction. Physical mind cannot perceive how something happens. It can only perceive how something happened. One more time. It's a very important distinction, and I'll explain. Physical mind does not have the capacity to perceive how something happens. It can only perceive how something happened. But because the physical mind thinks it's coming up with these things, it then takes what happened and assumes that that's how things happen. And it's not. It's only what happened that time. And it thinks, well, if I do that again, I can make this happen. I can make that happen. No. You might get some degree of repetitional success with that philosophy, but it will never go beyond the parameters of what you observed in that particular happenstance. Because what happened was designed to allow that particular thing to happen. And that particular thing doesn't necessarily require the same ingredients as something else. So when you may want something else to happen, when you may want to expand on what happened, you cannot use the same ingredients that made that happen, because then all you'll do is repeat the cycle and wonder why you're not getting anywhere. You have to allow the connection to your own higher self to be the one that will allow you to experience the reality that comes from the higher self, because the higher self is the only part of you that actually knows how things happen, because it's on the mountaintop. It has the broader perspective. It can see what's coming. It can orchestrate. You're in the valley as a physical being. From the physical perspective, your view is somewhat limited. But the idea is it doesn't matter. As we will discuss and point out, and as many of you have heard in The Secret, all you really need to do, to use the analogy they use of driving your car, is see the road just a few hundred feet ahead. You don't have to see the road all the way from your beginning to your destination. That's the higher self's point of view. So you don't have to know exactly how you're going to get there. All you need to know as the physical side of the personality mind is where you're at right now. The higher self will tell you, keep going. Turn left. Turn right. You're going to get there quicker this way. You're going to get there quicker that way. You need to stop for now. You need to take a rest. You need to take a bathroom break. Then get back in your car and keep going. That comes from the higher self portion of the total being that you are as a person, as a persona. But the physical mind aspect of the personality does not have the capacity to understand how things happen. So, stop trying to figure it out, because you never will as a physical person. Only as a higher self expression, when you are in communication and allowing that communication to occur, will you then be able to take advantage of knowing how it's going to happen, but the physical mind will not know how it's going to happen. This is using the invisible to your advantage. And this is why you talk about such things as, well, you just have to take it on faith. No, you don't. It's really about knowing and understanding the nature of your actual existence, understanding the structure of the relationship, understanding how it is you have arranged yourself as a consciousness, and then simply using it in the same way that you use a telephone, a light switch, or any other device. It's simply a matter of understanding the nature of it, and then taking advantage of using the nature of it, and using the power of the invisible, because it's very, very solid. Just because your physical mind can't perceive it, can't perceive the how of it, and how this is all happening, doesn't mean it cannot receive the benefit of how it's all happening. But in order to really do that as fully as you possibly can, you must drop the assertion and the assumption that the physical mind needs to know how everything works. Because it never, ever will. It's not designed to. And this allows you to lighten up your load, stop carrying so much baggage, stop trying to do your higher self's job, and just do your own. That's why so many of you are so tired when you are trying to do certain things in a certain way. It's because you're trying to do a job you weren't designed to do. That's exhausting. Stop. You were not hired to do that job. Your higher self already has the job, and it's working for you perfectly. Work with it. Work with it. Not against it, by trying to do the job it was designed to do. Just do the job you were designed to do, which is perceive what has happened and allow yourself to know that what has happened can be used by you to your advantage by maintaining positive meaning from your belief system into it. Allowing yourself to do that as physical mind is what will keep the communication lines open. Acting on your passion, acting on your excitement, always putting positive meaning into whatever happens is what will keep the lines open to your higher self to receive the communication, to know that you can take the next step, and the next step, and the next step, and the next step, because whatever it is that does happen will always allow you to take the next step, no matter what it is, as long as you relate to it in the appropriate way as a physical mind, and don't attempt to relate to it in an inappropriate way as a higher mind yourself. Let the higher mind come through you and relate to it, but don't try to do the higher mind's job for it. It will always, always be difficult for you to do because you're not designed to do that. So again, higher self conceives. Physical brain receives. Physical mind perceives. That's it. That is the totality of your persona in physical reality, with this connection to the level just above, vibrationally just above, what you call solid and tangible reality. Now, of course, to your oversoul, to your spirit, the higher self is actually quite solid, quite physicalized, quite a bit more dense vibrationally than you are when you are on the higher spirit level, on the oversoul level. It is, again, just above what you call the frequency of physical reality. We will go into this, as we say, in more detail, in more depth, tomorrow of your time. Also, what we will go into in more depth and in more detail tomorrow of your time is the concept that we have talked about many times, and you have heard from other places many times, but which we will now deliver in a different way. The concept of the difference between state of being and circumstances. And again, this ties into what we are saying. In a nutshell, as you say, the idea is to understand, as we have said in other ways, that circumstances do not determine your state of being. Your state of being determines your circumstances. Now, what's key here, though, is to understand once again that because of the way the personality mind has been taught to think of its job, it will often hear that statement as, oh, well then, if I get into this state of being, I will create circumstances that will be exactly reflective of what I prefer. And if I don't see those, something's wrong. This is what must be avoided, is the assumption that circumstances, that the appearance of circumstances mean anything. Again, remember, they are neutral. It's what you put into them from the state of being you choose to be in that determines the effect of the state of being of your life, the quality of who you are, the level of your passion, not what the reflection looks like. So, taking this a step further, beyond the idea, beyond the mechanistic connective statement of it's not circumstances that determine your state of being, it's state of being that determines your circumstances. Taking it a step further, you could actually help break that connection that doesn't serve you by restating this idea in a more definitive way. Circumstances don't matter. Only state of being matters. Circumstances don't matter. Only state of being matters. Now listen to the way that translates in your language. Circumstances don't matter. Don't materialize things. Only your state of being matters, materializes things. So, Circumstances don't matter. Only, underline, 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 only your state of being matters. Big, fat, period. Exclamation point. Close quotes. Parentheses, brackets.